Welcome back to the Backwards History Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Will, here with my co-host, Kevin. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
Well, let's vote on that and see what people think.
Well, you're in Louisiana. If you've committed a felony, you can't vote.
No, that is true.
Have you paid all your fines, Kevin?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, Kevin did not go down there and get arrested, and that's not why we've missed a podcast for this last month. Truth be told, we did meet up together and record an episode when Kevin came back to town, but we were not happy with how it came out, and we don't want to release crap. Simple as that. We want to give you the best that we can do, and that was not the best we could do. Yeah, but if any of you would be interested in hearing the raw audio off of that one, feel free to email us at the backwardshistorypodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on any of the social medias while you're doing your social media thingy things. DM us. I don't mind. I'll send you the file. You can listen to it for yourself, but we're just not going to publish it. And don't forget, we've got the merch store over at teespring.com/backwards-history-store. Go pick you up a hoodie since it's getting a little chilly outside. Help your favorite podcasters out in the process. We don't have them to where we get pretty much anything off of them, but every little bit helps. You know how it goes. Mm-hmm. But as you can probably guess from our little intro there and the coveted "Shut Up, Kevin." Yes, my favorite part of the podcast, I will admit it.
Can't imagine why.
We wanted to talk about disenfranchisement of felons, i.e., or for those who don't know what that means, the removal of the right to vote of people who have been charged with a felony, whether it be violent or nonviolent. They lose the right to vote in 21 of 50 states. We don't like that.
Nope.
But this subject came up because of recent movements in both Florida and places like Florida, North Carolina, and a couple other states to kind of fix that problem. Kevin?
Thank you, Will. Will and I, we stay in contact while I'm out of town working. And one day I was driving out to the site, and my boss likes to listen to NPR radio. And it was talking about this situation unraveling down in Florida. Lawmakers back and forth about giving felons or ex-convicts their right to vote back. And later that day, Will messaged me about doing an episode on it. So I was like, maybe that's a sign. That's we're both thinking about the same topic. And so here we are. To give you a brief rundown of the situation unfolding in Florida, which is always a key swing state when it comes to presidential elections. Seems like that every election cycle. Those of you who remember the 2000 election, how it played out or didn't play out. So what's going on is Democratic lawmakers, or a majority of Democratic lawmakers, passed a law that would restore convicted felons' right to vote once they had completed their sentence. And a lot of people, they like that idea. Like, okay, you've paid your debt to society. Welcome back. We're going to give you your right to vote so you can engage in society, so you can exercise your civic duty. And then Republican lawmakers, or a majority of Republican lawmakers, had been fighting the bill all the way through the House and everything. And once it passed, they got a little creative with the wording in the law, which plays out, and this is just a paraphrase, but once you've served your sentence or completed your sentence. So they maintain that your sentence isn't fully served or completed until after you've done your time and then done parole, probation, paid fines, and things like that. And so now you got, both sides just a couple of days, removed before election, and voters who people who were originally going to be able to vote for the first time in a while are now being told they can't because they owe fines. And people are pointing out, like, so you're telling these people they have to pay to vote. And then other opponents to it are saying this is very similar to voter suppression during the Jim Crow era. For those of you unfamiliar with Jim Crow laws, they were laws that were passed that were very anti-African American. They meant to suppress voters, suppress the black population from really moving forward after the Civil War. This is pure systemic racism, and the people are like, oh, you're trying to disenfranchise voters, and this really
Like
well,
this is legitimate. That was well, not legitimate, but that was literal systemic oppression or systemic racism.
exactly,
Not not implied, not guessed. That was actual 100% systemic racism.
exactly. And other people are saying these laws or these rules and regulations it's this impacts people of low socioeconomic status. It's almost like criminalizing the poor. We're going to take this away until you pay this, and it's just got a lot of people, this time every election cycle, tempers run a little high, and people are back and forth arguing, and it's a just a unfun time to be around. And
There are more colorful ways to describe it, but
there are
we try and keep it a little bit better rated around here.
just a tiny bit. So in preparing for this, we were trying to, we always do our research, and we were trying to figure out, like, well, why are felons not allowed to vote? Like, where did that come from? This was one of those questions that has a very unsatisfactory answer, at least for me. And it basically boils down to you broke the law, so now you don't get any say in how the law works, functions, all that. So it's like you broke the
Until
law.
you're
Right.
done.
Exactly. And it's like, that seems like really, I don't want to say stupid, but that's probably the most accurate word. Um,
I'll say it's very underhanded. What first thing that comes to mind when I think about this is, let's take for instance something that's becoming legal in several states and typically comes up on the ballot every year
Mhm.
in a lot of other states, but always gets shot down. Marijuana legalization. Now, we all know that there are a lot of people sitting in a lot of prisons on marijuana charges, non-violent criminal charges because they chose to use a plant. Now, they can't vote until they've served their time and paid all their fines after they're released, which we also know that felons are less likely to get hired, therefore, less money to pay fines, less money to pay the observation fees you have to pay, which is what you pay for the parole officer to basically check up on you every month. I don't know this from personal experience. This is from me watching a documentary and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So don't take take any meaning off of this. Um, but it's kind of underhanded in the fact that, okay, yeah, you got locked up on a law that many feel is unjust, and no one really knows how unjust other than those who have been through the system because of it. So the people with the most firsthand experience of how bad of a law it is to punish people for are the ones who can't vote to change it until sometimes, you know, 10 or more years down the line, because I think some states still have mandatory minimums of like 7 years for possession of any amount.
Oh yeah,
And that's craziness. But that's my opinion.
that's one I would agree with. It's it's very underhanded. And when I was listening to the NPR broadcast, they brought in a representative, a Republican in Florida, and he was giving their position on it of why um, they're being so, I don't know, difficult, so strict about these voting policies in Florida. And it was very rehearsed answers, as most politicians will give you. Um, and the interviewer, she really grilled him on this. How does this help them? The whole point of the prison system is rehabilitation. It's we're going to send you here to rehabilitate you and make you a better citizen. So we can reintroduce you to society.
Make you a valued member of society.
And it's like, but once you get out, you face all these hurdles after you've done your time. You mentioned it's very difficult for felons to find work because they have to check that little box. I guess I'm a convicted felon, and for a lot of people, that's like an automatic disqualification. Um,
Right. Granted,
mhm,
a lot of parole departments have businesses and stuff that they'll contract with or they'll
right,
contact to get their parolees jobs and things of that nature, but that's not always the case.
right,
That's an exception, not the rule.
exactly, and that still makes them dependent on the system. You know,
Exactly.
I do find it interesting that our state, Mississippi, even though I'm technically not there right now, is one that has the hardest road to rehabilitation, if you will, when it comes to getting your right to vote back. Not only do you have to serve your time, do all the parole, probation, and fines, in many cases, depending on the crime itself, there is a distinction there. You have to petition the court, and then sometimes you even have to get a pardon from the governor in order to just go and cast a ballot. Like,
I.e., you can do everything you're supposed to do, serve your time, pay your fines, do your parole, probation, what have you, and even then you can still be denied on the whims of others on
exactly.
something that's actually supposed to be a right. Like the question should be, have you served your time? Have you done all the stuff?
Right.
The only other requirement for me is, are you an American citizen? If so, yes. Check. Yes,
Exactly.
because you're, as an American citizen, meeting certain criteria
Mhm.
per the Constitution, you are to be allowed to vote.
And it,
Period.
it is worth noting that over the years, that criteria has changed a lot to be way more inclusive for voters. When it first started, it was just white male landowners, and then it's
Yeah, I think we
grown.
discussed this in one of our recent episodes. Well, recent being
Right,
relative, one of our episodes prior to this
right.
one, where I would have been able to vote, but you wouldn't.
Oh, right, right. Yes, we've seen this huge growth in inclusiveness for voters, but we still have this one underhanded kind of just really backwards way of suppressing voters, which is the only way to really look at it is we're going to make sure these people can't vote because, and based on my research, it's just because we can. Um, they may not vote the way we want, so we're just not going to let them. Uh,
And me and Kevin were talking off mic before we recorded this, and I was talking about it, and I was like, felons also, which I don't know if y'all know this, but felons also lose their right to bear arms, which in some instances I feel is appropriate.
I do too.
But let the punishment fit the crime. If it's a non-violent felony, I mean, because there's tons and tons of things that are felonies in the United States. Even
Shocking.
some of the most mundane crap can get you a felony. And you could lose your right to vote, your right to bear arms, blah, blah, blah. Losing your right to bear arms, I can see instances where that would make sense.
All right.
I'm not going to give a dude convicted of manslaughter that's gotten out and done everything. I'm not going to give him a gun.
And as our
You know,
listeners probably know, you and I are both very pro Second Amendment. Uh,
extremely pro Second Amendment, but
it comes
I,
with
I can find
responsibility.
exceptions. Right.
Exactly.
Right. With great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Benism right there.
There it is.
You know, um, and Uncle Ben, Spider Man's uncle, not Uncle Ben on the rice that we've talked about before too. Don't take my Uncle Ben's, don't take my Aunt Jemima, and don't take my Mrs. Butterworth. Anyway, I can see no legitimate argument to remove someone's ability to vote. Because it's not like all of a sudden they're going to vote, oh, you can't just vote, oh, I think murdering people should be okay.
Right. I mean,
It's not like you can write in a law or something to vote on as a ballot measure or something. I see no legitimate reason to deny anybody the right to vote.
same here. I think the only restriction on voting I could, legitimately be, behind is kind of like on the whole age restriction part. But outside of that, as long as you're a citizen,
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. As long as you meet the base
right?
requirements, I don't see any reason why being a felon should remove your right to vote.
It's exactly like I said when I was.
Unless your felony was like terrorism or something, then yeah, sure.
But it should be more of a case by case basis when it comes to. It shouldn't just be this blanket kind of all right. Well, you can't vote no more. Tough luck. You know.
Right. But even still, on a case by case basis, if you compare, removing the right to vote versus removing the right to own a firearm,
Mm-hmm.
there should be much, much, much fewer exceptions to the right to vote
Oh,
rule.
absolutely.
But what actually started this whole train of thought for me was listening to the confirmation hearings of Amy Coney Barrett,
Mm-hmm.
where in a now don't quote me on where this is from. This was just a court opinion that she wrote up for one of the cases that she heard or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about distinguishing between the types of felonies for, someone getting their right to own a firearm back. And, saying that the right to own a firearm is an individual right to defend yourself, whereas the right to vote
Mm-hmm.
is more of a collective right because you're not voting by yourself. You're voting with everybody else. So it's a civic duty, like you like to refer to it as, Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
where it is an act as a member of a group, i.e., the American citizen, American citizens or the citizens of whatever state you happen to be in, municipality, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
It is a group effort, whereas the right to own a firearm is for your own individual uses before it is for a group effort.
Yeah. That is an interesting distinction. Because like you said, I really like I can get behind that being that you vote is more that you do as part of a society, to kind of help steer the society itself. Whereas the right to bear a firearm is very much so an individual right, one to protect yourself. So yeah,
While it can be used as part of a group,
true.
it is more so, or it has the ability to be used singularly. Whereas voting,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just vote with one person. It just don't work that way.
Yeah, it don't really work out too well, does it?
I mean, you can vote all you want to. It ain't gonna do
It
squat
ain't gonna do nothing.
if you vote by yourself.
And on the topic of voting, I would really encourage everybody to exercise that right this year. Go to the polls, vote. I'm not gonna tell you who to vote for and why and all that. I just want people to
No,
vote. You know.
we will not tell you who to vote for. We'll tell you who is stupid to vote for, or who we feel is stupid to vote for. But by all means, go out and vote. I don't give a crap who you vote for.
Um,
Just do it.
and I would also encourage people to vote in their local elections too, because those have big impacts as well. But just get out there, and it doesn't take that long typically. Although with all the mail-in voting and things like that, it's just a crazy election cycle like it always is. But I would definitely encourage you to get out there and have your voice heard. You know,
Yeah, we definitely want to get that message out now, just in case we don't have a episode next week. Or yeah, because our schedules are a little crazy right now. We're gonna try and get back to our once a week releases, but bear with us. It's a growing time for us, and you know we'll try and stay with you guys. We definitely don't want to let this go. And another big thank you to everybody who voted for us in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Unfortunately, we did not win. We lost to a true crime podcast.
big surprise there.
But hey, we at least were there. You know what I mean?
It was a huge accomplishment just to be on the ballot, I guess, and very exciting. Still kind of shocked. I mean, we found out in August we made the slate, and
Yep.
it was just gonna keep putting out our material, and like Joe Dirt says, keep on keeping on or whatever.
Joe Dirte.
Joe Dirt, don't church it up, son. It's dirt.
It's dirt.
It's dirt.
Now, unfortunately, we found out that the nominee trophies were going to be almost $200 within like a week or 2 weeks of the deadline. So, unfortunately, we didn't get a trophy. So, if you guys next year, as soon as we open the voting, please jump out there and get us in there again, and maybe we can win the next one so we don't have to pay for the trophy.
$200 for a hunk of plastic.
But as always, we don't want you to take us as experts on anything. We don't want you to take us and what we say as fact. We want you to do your own research, form your own opinions, trust, but verify.